Warning: the following episodes has spooky content and foul language afoot. Aside from the spooky and foul language you're going to hear, pen names are also used. Here at the Introverted Poets Podcast, we pride ourselves on using pen names. The purpose of the pen names is to enjoy storytelling with no holds barred. Of course, unless you want to go without a pen name. Enjoy.
Everyone, and welcome back to the Introverted Poets Podcast, Spooky, Scary, Spectacular here on our 4th season. I am the Geeky Fit Mama. Here on the Introverted Poets Podcast, when we do Spooky, Scary, Spectacular, each story unfolds with meticulous detail enhanced by spine-chilling sound effects that transport you into the heart of the narrative. The story submissions, rich with suspense, guide you through twists and turns that leave you breathless, eagerly anticipating what lies around the next corner. As your narrator and host tonight here, I am here to finish up not only Spooky, Scary, Spectacular, but also to wrap up our 4th season. If you want to submit stories of your paranormal encounter for our final October episode, you still may at the Introverted Poets Society at gmail.com, all together lowercase, or by DM on any of our socials flashing below and in our description boxes as well, depending on where and how you consume your Introverted Poets podcast. Now, on to our spookiest time of the year. Here is our first story sent in by a user who also wished to remain anonymous. It is called The Music Box. Hello everybody, this is the Geeky Fit Mama, and I'm reading to you the story called The Music Box. Check it out. In Greensfield Psychiatric Facility, a patient named Michael was known for his peculiar obsession with a music box he claimed had been sent to him from another world. The music box played a haunting, melancholic tone that seemed to captivate anyone who heard it. Michael insists that the box was a portal to a place where he was eternally free from his torment. One night, during a particularly unsettling thunderstorm, the facility experienced a power outage. Michael's room, located in a remote part of the ward, was plunged into darkness. The staff had to rely on flashlights and emergency lanterns to navigate the halls. When the power was finally restored, the staff discovered Michael's room was empty. They searched the facility for hours, but there was no sign of him. Feeling a huge loss, I stayed overnight at the hospital, hoping that he would make his way back and all would be well with Michael. I don't remember when I passed out. The next day, my superiors had a meeting with all of us on duty and begged us to never speak of this again and had us sign NDAs. What was divulged was that due to the power outage, there had been a lot of mishaps in security and a lot of incidents occurred. Wondering what happened to Michael, I couldn't help but feel that something shady was definitely going on at the hospital. Even though Michael had a condition that I am not willing to disclose, he did have a family that cared for him and would visit him frequently and sing along with the music box's melody. Besides that, Michael was my patient and someone I had built a bond with. After the meeting, I asked my superiors what happened to Michael, to which they simply stared blankly and said, "The music took him away." My boss/owner of the hospital then walked away quietly. Feeling bewildered and defeated, I went to the lockers to grab my stuff and leave the hospital to get proper rest in my apartment. The next day, the staff and I could never determine how he had left the ward or what had happened to him during those dark hours, or where he was at. The music box was missing as well, yet somehow, the music could be heard playing from where he once stayed. 3 weeks after Michael went missing, his family came in looking for him, but the superiors and nurses said that he was nowhere to be found, and the nurses explained that the authorities haven't found anything and that the police report has already been made. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but Michael was also an immigrant. The authorities were never called, and my bosses took advantage of the fact that his parents did not speak English as a dominant language. Once they had left, I decided to press my boss, who we will call Josh, about the interaction with Michael's family and asked him if they had his case number because I wanted to contribute some information to the case. To which Josh interrupted me and said, "Don't let the music carry you away too." This made my heart stop and shudder. Noting the fear in my eye, Josh smiled and walked away. The following day, I was fired from the ward due to me being under a probationary contract and went back home to Connecticut from New York State. This happened 2 years ago, and I can't help but wonder till this day what happened to Michael. I highly doubt that music took him away. It is also rumored that the new patients who are residing in Michael's former room hear a music box playing in the middle of the night, almost as if Michael never fully checked out. Talk about a real-life horror story. One can't help but wonder, how often do patients go missing in all types of facilities, whether it be a ward or a regular hospital, a retirement home. Hell, if that can happen to the people in a psych ward. We even hear about this happening to students. Like, we hear that happening to like kids. I don't know how many times on TikTok I've seen on my For You page where like moms are like, my son went missing and nobody could account for where he was. And it's tragic. So, funny things going on over there, huh? But let's move on. Now, this next story is going to take us to watery pathways. And this is a story also submitted by an anonymous person. All these stories are submitted by anonymous people. So let's get into it. The ocean has always been a place of mystery and wonder, so it's not surprising that it's also the setting for some intriguing paranormal encounters. One story that stands out is the tale of the USS Cyclops, a U.S. Navy cargo ship that disappeared in 1918 while crossing the Atlantic Ocean. The USS Cyclops was carrying a large load of manganese ore and had over 300 men on board. It was reported to be in good condition, but it vanished without a trace, and no wreckage was ever found. The disappearance was surrounded by mystery and speculation. Some theories suggest that the ship may have encountered a storm or been sunk by a U-boat, but no concrete evidence was ever found. The paranormal twist to the USS Cyclops story comes from the eerie reports of sightings and ghostly phenomena associated with the ship. Over the years, sailors and travelers in the area have claimed to see strange lights or hear ghostly voices. Some even report seeing the ship itself appearing as a phantom vessel on the horizon before disappearing. The Bermuda Triangle, where the USS Cyclops disappeared, is notorious for its supposed paranormal activity and strange occurrences. The area has been linked to numerous other mysterious disappearances, and many people believe there could be some supernatural or extraterrestrial explanation behind these events. Boats, ships, jets, they have all gone missing or swear there's a time portal there. Even Amelia Earhart has been rumored to be taken by the infamous triangle. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the story of the USS Cyclops adds a chilling layer to the already mystifying lore of the ocean. This has been our first story on the ocean, or water, and of the Bermuda Triangle, for a matter of fact. Do you have any stories regarding the waters at night or of the infamous triangle yourself? Let us know via email or DM wherever you are listening to the Introverted Poets Podcast as Spooky, Scary, Spectacular, welcoming in fall and saying goodbye to Season 4. Now, our next story takes us to a beautiful, cultural, colorful land of México lindo y querido. Check it out. This story takes place in the northern state of Mexico known as Tamaulipas. This legend takes place in the city of Madero. This is the story of the vampire woman of the Church of San Juan Bosco. This story originated in the 70s, where the priest known as Father Ignacio Rosiles dedicated his life to taking care of this parish and organizing events. Alongside Father Ignacio assisting him with these events and restoration of the church was the wife of a rich refinery man. She vowed that on the day she passed, she wished her remains would rest at the church where she dedicated most of her life to. When the woman passed due to old age, they decided to honor her wishes and bury her at the church. Upon the undertaker looking at her body, They noted that her hair, nails, and fangs had grown along with her body seeming to be unaffected by decomposition or rigor mortis. The church in the city of Madero was full due to her being a beloved citizen. Despite the story being held as a vampire woman, the townspeople still held a mass in her honor. They went up to her coffin to give their final goodbyes to their beloved friend and marvel at her body one last time. But upon opening the coffin, they noted that it was empty. In that movement, the townspeople screamed and were convinced the woman had jumped out of the coffin and was in the church somewhere. The townspeople fled the church and came back with torches with sights on burning the church down. Father Ignacio asked for help from the mayor and military to calm down the citizens of Madero. As they kept the citizens at bay, the military, which is known as the Marina, searched the church far and wide and found no one or nothing in there. The townspeople, feeling unsafe, feared the woman was living in the city, seducing people to convert them into vampires or far worse, dinner. The citizens were in such complete fear that they dared not venture out at night. Sightings of her were reported across the cities. Others heard cries from the skies. Some citizens say that is hogwash due to her never leaving the church. Others claim she's buried in an unmarked grave so that nobody will disturb her, while others blame her for the animals found sanguinated across the city of Madero, Tamaulipas. The legend dates back to the 70s, where an innocent priest wanted to honor this high society woman's wishes, but ended up creating a farce that is spoken across the region. Although there are many legends that captivate Tamaulipas, this one of the vampire woman of Madero is one that enchants both adults and children till this day. This story on the vampire woman of San Juan Bosco Church and Father Ignacio Rosales Namorado was written by chronicler of the Municipal de Mexico, Adriana Carolina Infante Pacheco, who commented that the oil city contains many stories that become richer over the years and that have reached almost every corner of Mexico and as well as Tamaulipas. So Tamaulipas is known for having a lot of oil. So there's where Pemex, which is the refinery of Mexico or the gas station of Mexico, they get Pemex. They don't get Texaco, Shell, Valero. It's Pemex and that's it. I guess they're the ones that help the country. Full show notes and articles and links on where you can find more information on the myth of the vampire woman that I translated from Spanish to English will be provided in this episode's description, depending on where you are listening to Spooky, Scary, Spectacular and the Introverted Poets Podcast Season 4. Leaving Mexico and going back to the United States, our next story lands us in a different point of the Gulf Coast. It lands us in Galveston. Check it out. Known as Ashton Villa, this historic home was built in 1859 and it is one of the most iconic landmarks in Galveston. The villa is not only known for its beautiful architecture, but also for its ghostly residents. The most famous spirit is that of a woman in a blue dress, believed to be a former resident. Visitors and staff have reported cold spots, the sound of footsteps, and mysterious occurrences like doors opening and closing on their own. The house also has a history of strange occurrences, including furniture moving and objects disappearing. Located on 2328 Broadway Avenue J in Galveston, the Ashton Villa was built in 1859 for the family of James Monroe and Rebecca Stewart Brown. However, the lady in the blue dress is neither of the owners. In fact, it is their daughter, Betty Brown. Though she and her siblings were born into an aristocratic family, part of the upper wealthy class in Texas, and also referred to as the Texas Princess, Betty was not your run-of-the-mill debutante. No. She was known for her unconventional habits and happenings. Betty liked to race carriages down Broadway, smoke cigars in public, and traveled unchaperoned. She sounds like one of mine. She hosted marvelous parties and allowed kittens to climb up her beautiful gowns and rip them down to shreds because she had ever the money to get it redone. Ever the scandalous Betty shocked and stupefied Galveston high society. She took her eccentricities abroad and also traveled the world. She went to places like Egypt, India, Jerusalem, Morocco. However, despite her being a popular gal with many suitors, she never married. She enjoyed her independent life where all she did was travel and collect relics. She was very ahead of her time, let me tell you. Rumor has it that Betty remains in Ashton Villa today, where visitors sometimes see her standing in the gold room. Visitors catch her too atop the staircase. Truly superstitious allege that they can feel her phantom presence in the thick of the property. Residual energy is likewise attached to Betty's collectibles. One tour guide witnessed the apparition of a blonde atop the second floor landing. The woman, gowned in turquoise, held an intricately detailed fan. So she's not the lady in the blue dress, she's the lady in the turquoise dress. Just like the lady in the turquoise. Yeah, that wouldn't have rolled well. That was a joke. Okay, I'm showing my age for those of you that like senses fail. Alright, but anyway, let's get back to Betty here. The woman, gowned in turquoise, held an intricately detailed fan, which was rumored to be Betty's beloved belongings. Betty's chest of drawers is also haunted. They mysteriously lock and unlock spontaneously, though the key has been missing for many years. Ceiling fans turn themselves on and spin around. Lucy Testa, Ashton Villa's former manager, noticed strange activities with one particular ceiling fan on February 18th of 1991. The day of Betty's birthday. Testa had hit the switch, yet the fan continued to oscillate. Perhaps that wouldn't have been strange if the mansion's alarm hadn't gone off earlier in the day, and inexplicably at that. Legend has it that Betty plays the piano too, though some think that these melodies belong to quite a different musician. Betty isn't the only ghost in the Ashton Villa. There's also the ghost of Tilly Brown. Does the phantom piano belong to Mathilda Brown? Unlike her sister, Tilly married in 1884, yet her marriage was ill-fated. Her husband, Thomas Sweeney, was abusive and would always be belittling Tilly. Even their children would hide from Thomas upon his return from work, terrified and teary-eyed, because they never know how Thomas was going to be at home. Luckily, maids and family members testified to Thomas's abuse, providing eyewitness testimony, which helped Tilly ensure a divorce. Thomas was proven to be so barbaric that he was denied property rights during the legal proceedings, which is a big deal back then. This was exceptionally uncommon at the time, as Victorian law often stipulated the husbands retained ownership of the estates during the divorce. There was no prenup back then. The court even denied Thomas custody of his children, another win for Tilly Brown, and of course, being of an aristocratic family, this definitely helped her. Though skeptics think that Tilly, rather than Betty, haunts the Ashton Villa, what is the argument? Betty was a free-thinking nonconformist who would rather travel abroad than stay inside, whereas Tilly was a homebody, which would make more sense, according to these skeptics. During Tilly's divorce, Ashton Villa provided a respite and refuge. It is the sweet, kind-hearted young girl's escape. Or does she still seek sanctuary in the 3-story estate? Now, there are rumors that Tilly caused the death of her ex-husband, yet Thomas Sweeney died in the Tremont Hotel 10 years after the divorce. His autopsy too lists death by natural causes, contradicting Tilly's assistance. It is unlikely that Tilly murdered Thomas Sweeney, though we'll never know for sure. Another mystery, according to Ghost City Tours, who I am getting this information from, is who is the mysterious phantom player, aside from sightings of Betty and Betty's objects being haunted and enchanted, and along with it also possibly being rumored to be Tilly because she found the Ashton Villa to be a sanctuary. The mystery remains, who is the Ashton Villa piano player? One night, awakened by the sight of a piano playing, the Ashton Villa's caretaker feared for the worst. He assumed that it was vandals breaking in, yet whenever he approached the source of the music, he saw a vague apparition of a female in the 19th century attire. The music and the musician disappeared upon second sight, and the caretaker was able to ascertain the identity of the piano player. Although some suspect that it's the ghost of Betty Brown, the Galveston Historical Foundation stated that Betty never learned to play the piano in real life. They instead said Betty was an accomplished painter whose works are on display throughout the house. On the other hand, Tilly was the one that played both piano and violin. So, the rumor remains, do both sisters stalk the supernatural estate? However, there is another paranormal phenomenon at the Ashton Villa, the disembodied voice of a disgruntled man. Visitors often overhear him arguing with an unseen woman. Some suspect that he may be the specter of Thomas Sweeney. Others allege that he's one of Betty's many admirers. Bill swore in the afterlife that Betty never accepted a proposal to be anybody's bride. Aside from Betty and Tilly's many suitors and Thomas Sweeney that are rumored to haunt the Ashton Villa, other disembodied spirits and voices have been heard. Once a makeshift hospital during the Civil War, the Ashton Villa has seen its fair share of soldiers. It was used as both a Confederate and Union headquarters, though simultaneously never at once. General Gordon Granger of the Union Army even announced the end of the war upon the villa's veranda. Is that why phantom Confederates prowl the property, marching within and around the mansion? Other notable occupants of the Ashton Villa are known for more of their ghastly, grisly guards. President Ulysses S. Grant, for example, visited the Gold Room in 1880. Archives from Ashton Villa prove that he was particularly fond of brandy and cigars. Prior to the Ashton Villa being known as a hotel or being restored as a public museum, the Brown family retained it up until 1926, where then it became a Masonic meeting hall. It wasn't until the 70s, when it faced demolition, that the Galveston Historical Society purchased the property and turned it into a public museum. Unfortunately, tours are no longer available. The Ashton Villa is only available as a venue, though you'll have to book a pretty big function to venture in. Perhaps Betty and Tilly pop into a few events here and there. If you'd like to stop by the street side, the Ashton Villa is located at 2328 Broadway Avenue J. Even a glimpse of the ghoulish property is worth the while. And as you see in the photos here that I got of a Facebook group called Haunted Texas, this is people that are a community where they like to post photos of spooky places that have either stayed at, whether it be a bed and breakfast, or they've gone on ghost tours. And in a lot of the photos, you see the outlines. So none of these photos are mine. And like I mentioned, as part of giving credit to where I'm getting my sources, all the show notes will be provided in the description box below, depending on where you're listening to the Introverted Poets Podcast. And with that concludes our second to last episode of the Introverted Poets Podcast, a Spooky, Scary, Spectacular. Join us next week for our final episode, aka the season finale. We will be having a whole new batch of scary stories from both the United States and Nuevo Laredo. Shout out to the podcast Miedo 867. They are in our sister city of Nuevo Laredo. We are in Laredo, Texas. Headquarters is, that is, the Jefas, Ileana Jade, and Rachel Harris are in New York and Denver, of course. Shout out to Brooklyn and Denver. So if you guys have any scary stories you want to submit for the next episode, you still have time. Email us again at introvertedpoetsociety@gmail.com. You can DM us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also you can just leave comments here on YouTube as well. This is the Geeky Fit Mama signing off, and catch you all next time. Bye-bye.